So at the end of chapter 1080, we saw Garp bust onto Hachinosu and drop the Galaxy Impact, destroying a good portion of it, or what we could visually see. It's really impressive, and we all know that it parallels to what Luffy did back in Dressrosa. But that's aside from the point, because today we're going to be talking about the high possibility, and you know, very likely it's going to happen, Garp versus Blackbeard. And in order to talk about that, brought my two boys with me, Sai and Park.
How's it going?
Fellas,
yes.
Do you think it is inevitable? Are we going to see Black... Well, first of all, let me just preface that Blackbeard is not on Hachinosu right now. He's somewhere, maybe killed Law, maybe did it, maybe defeated him, but the last time we saw him, he was going against Law. I think it's a foregone conclusion at this point that he's probably defeated Law, and he's probably coming back to Hachinosu. Maybe,
either there
not,
or he's on the ship to Egghead. Either one.
So what do you guys think about that?
About Garp losing and dying?
Whoa!
Oh God,
we're skipping like 10 minutes ahead.
Oh, my bad.
No, we'll just jump into it. Let's just go into it because that's what we're going to anyway. Well, you know, what do you think about that? Do you think this is Garp's inevitable conclusion?
I think it's building up to it. Like, I don't know how Blackbeard's gonna beat him, right? Especially the people here on Hachinosu currently, Shiryu of the Rain, Vasco Shot, San Juan Wolf, like these dudes, I don't see them beating Garp. But we know that we're in the final saga. Things are speeding up. Oda is getting pretty crazy with the story. If we're seeing these feats from Garp, those feats from, what is it, Shanks the last chapter, I feel like Blackbeard's gonna show up too. I don't know how, but I feel like he will.
Yeah, and you know, something that I've been thinking about with timeline-wise, with the Blackbeard ship going to Hachinosu or Egghead in 1079, and this chapter kind of played with timeline a little bit because it like did a flashback where Blackbeard was on the island and then a portion of his crew presumably left, and we don't necessarily know when this is taking place. Like, it could even be that like and I, you know, I have a video that's coming out about this, but we don't even necessarily know if maybe this Blackbeard that's going to Egghead has already dealt with this situation, and you know, all of the shock that, you know, they were talking about, like that the world is going to be shocked, it could be from the result of this situation and going on. Yeah, so like, you know, there is a world where that makes sense, and you know, it would play along with what Sai was saying, where like one way or the other, I don't see Garp losing to the people here. I kind of see it as like these characters might stall out and then alert Blackbeard. Maybe Blackbeard comes back from wherever he is, or maybe he's coming back from the Law fight, and that's the timeline that this is. And then that's where the Blackbeard stuff fits in. And my biggest thing that like came up was like, is Garp, like, are we gonna find out Garp is gone already? Are we not gonna even see it? Like, or is it gonna happen later? Like, you know, and then it goes back to like, Oda is speeding things up. So it, for me, I think, you know, one of the major points in the video that is gonna release tomorrow about this whole chapter on my channel is essentially that Blackbeard is kind of the perfect character to take Garp out of the story. There's so many thematic reasons. There's so many parallels between like Whitebeard and Garp. There's so many things that like what Garp stands for, what he defends, and then what Blackbeard is trying to push. And so if anybody ever thought, like, even if you don't think that Blackbeard can beat Garp, I think one of the questions that most people should ask themselves is, do you really think Garp is going to be a character that lasts until the very end? Or doesn't he seem like a character that is going to be removed for a certain reason, and that being used as like an emotional jumping point for Luffy, an emotional you know, situation? And if you think yes, and then you kind of figure out, well, if it's not Blackbeard, then where does Garp do that? Is it? A lot of people think it might be Akainu. They run it back, but I don't necessarily think so. I think it's going to be against Blackbeard because, you know, while Akainu was the person that executed Ace and it wasn't done in the proper way, at the end of the day, the person who set it all forward was Blackbeard. Akainu was just doing his job. Ace was going to die. That is something that, you know, Garp accepted when he visited Ace at Impel Down. It was for his execution, right? Like, if he wanted to break him out, he could have done it there, but he didn't. And the only person really to blame for all of that, which Shanks and Garp can kind of agree on, would probably be Blackbeard, right? And they both have a focal point on Blackbeard right now. Shanks mentioned the last chapter, and here we have Garp trying to, like, you know, galaxy impact his island. So I think it makes too much sense. The question is when will he lose to Blackbeard? And you know, going back to what Sai said, how, I have a few ideas. I'm still playing with them, but I definitely see it. I definitely see the world where Garp is. We have to start, you know, preparing our hearts a little bit.
For me, when it comes to Garp losing, thematically it makes sense because a lot of the old era has been losing. Whitebeard lost. Rayleigh, you know, he said he couldn't beat Blackbeard. We saw Kaido and Big Mom fall. Like, the old generation is slowly going down one after another. I feel like Garp is just going to be another one of those dominoes.
Yeah.
And also, you know, the fact, I think you were spot on par when you said that Garp is the perfect character to die here. I agree. Like, he is. Because, like, when I try to think of his end game, it's muddy. Because, you know, he's already had it. He's already had his heyday. He's already done his end game. He's kind of just in, like, the post end game at this point. So him dying is perfect. And also passing on to the next generation. That's the whole reason he's at Hachinosu, to save Kobe. That's what he says. He's like, you have any idea who you've taken prisoner? Kobe's the future of the Navy. So this is Garp passing the torch, but also giving his life in the process. And I've talked about this in my own videos so many times. Sorry if you guys have heard me say this before, but I think Luffy needs more motivation to go after Blackbeard. He doesn't really have a lot if you think about it. So somebody has to die that's close to Luffy, and Blackbeard has to be the one to do it, essentially. Or at least just the beginning of it. Maybe this could be a compound effect that leads to other things. Now, as for how Blackbeard can theoretically do this, I'm just going to say, I'm not even going to say it's like my theory for what I think is going to happen, because it's just too grandiose. So I'll just say that if I was writing One Piece, just, you know, I know that statement. Oh my God, no. Okay, just in this sequence right here, I think it would be cool.
Yeah, watch out. The keyboard warriors are going to have a field day with this one, Zhoniin.
No!
Lock your doors, please!
I'm gonna coat my keyboard in hockey. But
not the Reddit pirates.
So we've got Blackbeard coming to Hachinosu, and I assume this is after he has defeated Law, maybe even killed him, also taken his devil fruit, and I think he is going to fight Garp, and Garp is going to destroy Blackbeard, like, so bad that, like, even the reader's going to think, whoa, what a twist, Blackbeard was killed by Garp, like, Garp killed him, that's crazy, and you're going to think it, but then Blackbeard gets back up, and he's like, I'm actually immortal now, I can't die, and then Garp, like, he just gave everything to take him down, and he's just like, well, crap, and then, yeah, he just dies because, like, Blackbeard was immortal, and I think that's a great way to protect Garp as well. It's not like he was cleanly defeated by Blackbeard because he has the freaking perpetual youth surgery on his side. So you do give Garp the clean victory there, but you also protect him by having him die to kind of plot armor in a way. Now, again, like I said, this is me writing it. I do not think this is going to happen, but it could.
It's a possibility that's out there. Like, people have been memeing, like, oh, watch Blackbeard show up and he says room, right? like imagine he has the Ope Ope no Mi, like, right away.
Yeah.
I see this going, sorry to cut you off, Par.
No.
I see this going one way, too. And in my headcanon, I can see Garp being the Jiraiya of the situation, right? He runs the smoke against the Blackbeard pirates present. He beats Shiryu. He beats Vasco. And then all of a sudden, he looks around, and the rest of the Blackbeard crew is here. And then Blackbeard himself is here, and they just take him down. I feel like it's definitely going to be a dirty fight, because these are pirates. Oda said that Blackbeard is the most pirate-like character in the series, and pirates don't fight clean. So I can't imagine that they're going to be like, oh, it's a 1v1. Shiryu, you fight Garp, and then Vasco is going to take on this other guy, right? Like, they're not going to fight cleanly. is how I see it. Like, we see the Marines all fighting together. That's how I expect the Blackbeard pirates are going to take on Garp. They're just going to gang up on him, just beating up an old man.
Hey guys, but real quick, I just want to talk about gamer subs because I love this stuff. I take it almost every day before I have to do the work that I have to do with YouTube, you know, the editing, the research, all that stuff. It helps so much because it doesn't just have caffeine in it like coffee or whatever. It also has nootropics, which make me feel so focused, energized, and calm all at the same time. Really great stuff. Now, I don't go to school, and I know that a lot of you do, so this would definitely will help with your studying and anything else you have to do. And I know we're coming towards finals, so I know things are getting pretty stressful for you guys, and if anything can help, it will be gamer subs. Check out their mango meta flavor, blowhole blast, Misfits melon, dragon fruit, citrus lemonade. They've got tons of flavors and they're all fantastic. So check out the link in the description and make sure you use code BIGZ. That way it'll give you a great discount and you'll be helping me out too. Thanks, guys.
When it comes to Blackbeard, I personally experienced this. Sai showed me the light, and so did my viewers in the live stream. But, you know, in terms of like underestimating Blackbeard's crew, I think a lot of people have been playing that game a lot, and truthfully, I was too. But I didn't do it like with Lucci. Lucci was one of the ones that me and Sai had talking about, like, oh, he's gonna come back with something crazy. He's not gonna be absolutely out of the water, despite, you know, Luffy being you know, head and shoulders above Lucci in strength. But he came back with an awakening. And that was something that was odd for a lot of people, but that's something Oda just gave and we kind of accept. And there's a lot of ways you can explain it, like go back to Eni's lobby, their synergy with their fruits. It just makes a lot of sense. And it, you know, Oda doesn't need to take the time to explain like every single detail. But when you think about awakenings is something that, you know, at the end of Wano, at the end of Onigashima, Kaido gave us like the mind and body has to be like synergized, right? They ironically didn't have any awakenings. And then we go to Lucci and Kaku, who also awaken their fruits, despite us not seeing it. And then here we land on Blackbeard's crew, where if one of the most important things about Blackbeard's crew after in recent history isn't even what they've been doing, it's the fact that Oda literally showed us every single one of their fruits. And on top of that, I think everybody can't deny how crazy specific each of these fruits are for each of the characters, where Jesus Burgess was like a champion of strength and he has a strong fruit. A giant has the gigantic fruit. And so I feel like all of the Blackbeard pirates will be able to awaken their fruits. And so I think that will be what is surprising in this situation. Yes, Garp is going to be crazy, right? The Conqueror's Haki, all this stuff. But then if you have, 4 awakened users here, which I'm sure Garp can still, given his strength, handle that, but it might not be as simple and as easy as we might think. And then if you add Blackbeard and the rest of his crew coming back, then you think like if Blackbeard is also awakened, maybe he has the Yami Yami and the Gura Gura awakened. And that might be, you know, the next ceiling that like Luffy will have to also overcome, right? Because it's not just Shanks having crazy haki, it's Garp having crazy haki, it's the entire Blackbeard crew is also awakened. How do you even fight that? How do you fight an awakened island fruit, right? And then on the other side of things, even if you don't think that even that is enough to stop the like basically Goku here, who's just like you know, spirit bombing Hachinosu, I think the other part that's really important is when you look at these old characters, like the golden age, like, you know, golden, Garp, golden, I just like that pun, but you kind of like recognize that none of them were really taken down like up front with just straight up power, right? Like Roger died to an illness, Whitebeard died from like an illness, an old age, as Akainu said, right? And then obviously he was fighting in a giant war for his son. And then I think about like Odin, I consider that as like an old era thing. He didn't necessarily die to just straight up power, he died to like deceit. And then I think like Garp might, there's a few ways where you know, Blackbeard could instigate that situation with Garp, knowing that you know, Kobe's important, knowing that if Garp's screaming that this is my protege, the future of the Navy, Blackbeard's the type of guy to use that against him. You know what I mean? So I see multiple ways where Garp could be caught off guard too. He's not a man who's without weakness either. In Marineford, we saw 2 times where he faltered under his own weaknesses, and Blackbeard's the kind of guy who exploits those weaknesses. So I definitely, one way or the other, there's like 100 different ways, like from Zhoniin's idea to Sai's to mine, where Blackbeard shows up and Garp unfortunately is removed and showing the last saga in a new light.
Have you guys watched Vinland Saga?
Yes.
I've dabbled.
This kind of hits me like with season 1, where we have Thor as a character that's just super strong, and he's this infallible guy, like he was a legend, and it's like, how are people gonna take this man down? And then what do? They use a hostage. I feel like that's what could happen here with Kobe, because earlier in this chapter 1080, we have Vasco Shot and Shiryu talking about how they want to capture Kobe alive. And it's like, okay, if they can't use him as a bargaining chip, they still want to keep him alive. Like, what could the purpose be? Maybe they want to use him as a hostage against Garp. I feel like that is a possibility.
Yeah. There's too many ways this can go down, for sure.
I think you actually hit the nail on the head. It'll probably be a combination of the things that you guys said. Nothing of what I said, of course, but I do think it will probably...
You don't undersell yourself.
...involve Kobe, for sure. And I think it will be a team effort, and it will be dirty, too. I like that you brought that up. It will be dirty, because that's also how Whitebeard was defeated. It was like a really dirty finish, and I love that, because it showed that, like, Blackbeard, he had to, like, dig deep and just get grimy to take him down. It just got to the point of where they were just cowering, backpedaling, just firing off pistols on him. Like, that was it. That was the ending. It wasn't like friendship punch. It was just pistols. And then
it was like, guys, help me.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that will, a combination of everything.
To your credit, though, Zhoniin, what you described, I think while the specificity of what you were saying might not be there, but I do see that happening at some point in the series where Blackbeard is like taken out, but then he's like revived in some way, like whether like the multiple soul theory comes into play here. Like one of my things was like, he gets Conqueror's Haki blasted and then he passes out, but then he gets right back up and it's like a different version of him. Like I see
back.
Yeah. And then that version is just like, you can't Conqueror's Haki blast that. And it's like, I see that. So it's like, whether it's the immortality, whether it's the multiple soul, what you said, like I see that happening at some point. I just don't know if it's right now or if it's against Shanks or if it's against Luffy or when Imu's involved, right? One of those points, I think there's still places for your plot development, your imagination of it to play out, for sure. I do see that.
I know we're kind of like going like fan canon, head canon right here, but I think something really cool that could happen is if Garp beats Blackbeard, and then, like you said, like Blackbeard gets back up and his personality changes a little bit. And then Garp is like, wait, rocks? Like, even Garp has the callback, and then that could be how we start, like, the God's Valley flashback, and we actually see what happened there.
Yeah.
Because Garp was a guy that was, like, responsible for taking down rocks. So if anybody were to know if somebody does have a rocks connection, it would be this man right here.
Yeah, you're 100% right. That is another reason why I'm like, I don't think Garp dies immediately, because whenever he dies, before that we have to get a God Valley like flashback, whatever. Like if Oda stops the series to make a movie, all of a sudden, like we need that. We need that like right now. I don't know. Like 100% before Garp leaves, we have to get the God Valley stuff, because he's the last character to be from that. Who has firsthand experience from that situation. So if we're gonna get it, it kind of has to be from Garp, from my eyes, at least.
Yeah, I feel that. Like, who else is gonna give the God's Valley flashback? Roger.
I have one theory.
He's gonna come out of the grave and be like, "Hey guys, this is what happened."
I do have a theory, but it's a little lengthy to explain. I haven't made a video on it, but I don't even know if I have the time to. It's essentially, I think Kuma could be one of the characters that was at God Valley. That flashback that we got from when Bonnie was there, I put out a few logic points that a few people liked, that wasn't Sorbet Kingdom where he's from, and that wasn't Merijois where the slaves are, because the context of it doesn't make sense. So I was saying, like, his timeline based off of his age, because I think he's like 48 or 47, and God Valley was 40 years ago, or 38 years ago. He would have been around that age, around when God Valley was, and we know God Valley had celestial dragons, and so probably slaves. So I was thinking that Kuma might have been at God Valley, which would be really cool. And I don't really care that I'm putting this in a future video, but the point that I really like is that if that's the case, that explains why Kuma loves or gave his body towards the Navy, because Garp would have been the liberator, and then also why he would have trusted Dragon and signed on with Dragon, because he's the son of Garp, right? So all of those things, it would have tied back to Kuma's story at God Valley if that were the case. But that's a big if, right? I like it clean and simple. Just give it to me from Garp. That's all I care, right? I don't even care for that theory, even though it sounds really cool. But I just, above all anything else, I need God Valley for sure.